If you have an e-bike with a Shimano motor, it only takes a few minutes to adjust how that motor behaves, and it's well worth your time. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that, particularly on the EP8 and the EP801. And then I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite settings. Now, you don't need to make these changes to your bike. The motors work great as they are. But if you've watched some of my other videos on how I make adjustments to both how my riding style and how I want to use my battery, it is worth making the changes. And it's probably the best free upgrade you can make to your bike. To get started, you're going to need three things. One is a bike with a Shimano motor, particularly for this video, the EP8 or the EP801. So I have one right here I'm going to demonstrate with. You're also going to need a smartphone or a tablet that you can pair to your bike so you can make the adjustments. And then importantly, you're going to want to download the Shimano eTube project app. Now, it's not to be confused with the eTube Ride app. eTube Ride app is something you use while you're riding the bike. Once you've downloaded the app, click on it and you'll see a screen pop up that looks sort of like this. I have two bikes added to the app already, so ignore those. But you want to click on the plus button next to register bike or power meter. And you should see your bike pop up. It's going to have some kind of code there. If you don't, then click on a button on your mode switch, and that should wake up your bike. Once you've connected, it's going to ask you to confirm the units that you have. Right here, you're going to see which motor you have. So if you weren't sure if you had an EP801 or an EP8, this one has an EP8, and it says drive unit DU EP800. So this is an EP8 only. It's not an EP801. So then click on next. And it allows you to change some things about the names of your bikes and put a picture in there if you like. But I'll just say register, this is new bike. And here we go. So we see all the items that are on this bike that are Shimano. It starts with e-bike, which has assist and drive unit, the switch, the display, and other settings. So we're going to go into a few of these that are going to make a difference for your bike. Now, one thing I'll mention is it's really hard to mess anything up when you're doing this. Everything you do can be turned back or reset to the regular setting. So don't worry about that. There is one thing you can do to mess up, though. If you look at this first screen, you're going to see on top it says customize in the middle, and that's where it opened up. On the left is update. If you click on that, and I'm going to do that on this one, it pops up with updates available to both the switch in this case and the motor. I'm not going to do that. This is where you can mess up. If I clicked on that and I don't have a very good Wi-Fi connection, it could easily stop in the middle of the process because it loses Wi-Fi connection. And in that case, the firmware update will stop and the bike will not be rideable. You have to bring it into a shop to have them hardwire into the unit and have them update it that way. So don't do this. Don't do the update unless you know you've got a good Wi-Fi connection, you want to take the chance, or you just have it done in the shop, or you have easy access to a shop that can do it, and you won't be without your bike for a while. I've made the mistake before, and I've learned from it. But this video will go over both conditions. There are some changes that you can make with the EP801, which I'm going to really dive into first, that you won't be able to make if you don't do the update. If you still have old firmware installed, the new firmware has some additional settings you can make, and you'll see those in a minute. So I'm going to go over the EP801 first, and it's on my white tee. Before I do, please consider subscribing if you're enjoying this kind of content. It really means a lot to me. So let's get into the EP801. The ones we're going to focus on are going to be e-bike, and there's two selections you can make. One is the drive unit and one is assist. The meat of this stuff is an assist, but if you hit drive unit, you'll see that there's only a few changes you can make. You can adjust the max speed that the bike can attain with assistance. It's usually set at the maximum anyway. In the US, it's listed as 20 miles per hour. I'm going to leave that. And then you can change the auto shut-off timer to anywhere 5, 10, or 20 minutes. It's at 10 minutes. I'm going to leave that. And now I'm going to go back. Now here's the heart of the system, and that's assist. So I'm going to click on that. You can see now that you're looking at two different profiles that you can adjust. So profile 1 is on top, profile 2 is on the bottom. Yours may look different than this, but you can swipe from side to side to start with either the basic mode or the fine-tune mode. I've got basic on top and fine-tune down below. So I'm going to show you how to adjust both of those. They're very similar. And there's also a customized mode all the way at the end where you can start from scratch, but it'll basically do the same thing. So I'm just going to start from their pre-defined mode here. And this may not look like yours because I've already messed with mine, but we'll show how to get back to the original settings in a minute. So if I click on basic mode, I'll see the settings that I can make. And you're going to see just below the graph three settings. You can make to eco, to trail, or to boost. And those are the selections you make on your handlebar. From eco to trail to boost, you can adjust the settings for each one of those separately. On the top is this cute little graph. I'm going to ask you to ignore that. It moves around when you move some of these settings, but it's very confusing because it looks like it's talking about torque, and torque is something that changes throughout your cadence range because the numbers go from 20 to 85, and this motor has a maximum torque of 85 Newton meters. It's kind of a nice interface, but it's really confusing if you start to think about what these adjustments make. So let's talk about what these adjustments make. The first one, I'm in eco right now. The first one is assist character. That's really the multiplier, how much the motor will multiply your input. Maximum torque, let's get back to in a minute. Assist start, and that goes from mild to quick. That's how quickly the assistance will ramp up and give you the maximum power, the power or the torque that's multiplied by your power. So if it's going to triple your power and you're pushing on the pedals, how quickly is it going to go to that triple number? That's what that assist start means. These last two adjustments are only available to you if you've made the update on the EP801, and that's assist carryover. That's how much longer the motor will go after you've stopped pedaling, and assist cutoff. And that's sort of at that 20 mile an hour or whatever that maximum speed your bike is limited to. When you get there, does the motor just shut off right when you get there, or does it gradually shut off as you get close to it? That's what this last adjustment is. So natural means it's going to be very gradual. I switch it to aggressive, it's just going to shut off right when I hit the maximum number. So let's talk about these. I generally I will go to aggressive there because I want to get all the power right up to 20 miles an hour, and I don't want it to start backing off before it gets there. But on the lower mode, perhaps trail, maybe even eco, I'll go down to natural because I'm generally not being as aggressive. Carryover, I love having carryover on the trail, so I always leave that at long. Assist start, I leave that at maximum, and I'll talk about it in a minute when I talk about assist character, because what I do for eco and trail and boost is I don't want as much of a multiplier. That assist character, I'm okay with that power coming on immediately. If you're not, and it starts to surprise you when you're on the trail, this is something you want to adjust down. Let's talk about this torque setting. I said I'd come back to it. And it's a bit confusing because maximum torque occurs at the very low cadence range. So if you make an adjustment to the torque setting here and you bring it down or bring it up, you're really only affecting that first initial, maybe in the 30 to 50 RPM cadence range, very low, just rock crawling, slow trail movement kind of effect. Otherwise, you're just not going to see the effect of your adjustment on torque. This has nothing to do with the maximum power. This is just limiting that maximum torque that only occurs at low cadence. So I just max this out. You're not going to notice the difference of it, trust me. So the biggest difference you can make to your motor, and the one adjustment I would say is the most important on this whole app, and this, particularly in the assist category, is assist character. It's the multiplier. It's how easy it's going to be to pedal this bike when you're on the trail. It's how much power and torque this motor is going to put out when you push on the pedals. And that all of that difference is made through the assist character adjustment. You can see in Eco, they have it set pretty low. In Trail, they bring it up a little bit, and then Boost, they bring it up a lot. That is the biggest difference you can make on this motor. So I want to go into where I put my settings, but before I do, let me go into the other setting, which was the fine-tune mode. Now the fine-tune mode, you've got an additional set of adjustments you can make here. And the biggest one is how many, so fine-tune mode allows you with this switch to, rather than go between Eco, Trail, and Boost, to go through multiple settings, up to 15. And those number of settings that you can switch between can be adjusted. It can be adjusted way back down to 3 if you wanted to, but you can see here the check marks. And if I deselect some of these, you can see I can get down to 3 or 4 settings if I wanted to. I leave it at 15 just because that's kind of what this mode is intended for, is to be able to fine-tune your power output. And then you can see, I told you to ignore the graph, but you can see in the graph sort of relatively how spaced out they say this multiplier is. Ignore the labels on the axes. They don't mean a whole lot, and they're just confusing, I think. But it does show you that your assist levels are equally spaced out. The next one down below is your max torque setting, and you can adjust this so the max torque changes between the different modes, that 1 through 15. But again, as I said earlier, these don't make a huge amount of difference. Now, if you were bringing it down to 20, you would notice the difference. But I just max that out, and that you can also change the maximum if you wanted to, but that's I don't think advisable because you want to use your whole motor. So I just leave the max torque maxed out, and then you've got sort of your fine tune between minimum assist and maximum assist set for you in the fine tune mode. So let's go back to the basic mode, because then I'll show you what the settings that I would recommend are. Now I have a bike that's one that I use for exercise. It's also an e-bike, but it's a mid-power e-bike. And so I'm not looking for my full power e-bike to be one that rides almost like a regular bike. And definitely if you're in their normal settings in eco mode, it gets you much more on par with a standard bike that doesn't have a motor, because the bike's so heavy. Going uphill in eco mode is almost as difficult as if you're on a very lightweight mountain bike. I don't need a setting for that. I want my settings to be a little bit closer to the top. So what I do is on boost mode, you can see here I've got everything maxed out. On trail mode, I up this much closer to the boost mode, say about here. And then I go to eco mode, and again, I kind of bring that up. I'm using the graph as a visual aid to kind of get the multiplier to be sort of that same distance away. So now I know if I'm riding in eco mode and I want a little bit more, I'm kind of going to get a chunk more of assistance when I go to trail mode, and I'll get that same chunk more of assistance when I go to the full power mode. In their normal settings, the boost mode is much more powerful than the trail mode or the eco mode, and it's a big jump. So I'd rather not have that big jump. I bring them closer together. So you can kind of see visually where my settings are. This is what I would recommend for a full power e-bike like these. Now, once you've made the settings that you like, you adjusted them the way you like, then you're going to hit this apply button down here at the bottom. I'm not going to do it, but once that happens, it will, it's saying go ahead and cancel setup. It will apply that to your bike if it's on. If your bike happens to not be connected, like right now I'm not connected to my YT, but it will save those settings, and once you connect to that bike, it will update the settings. It will ask you if you want to update the settings to what you've made. So you can make these changes in the comfort of your own home. Go out to your garage if you happen to have your bike out there, turn the bike on, and have the settings apply. Now let's look at the EP8, because the EP8 is different. And I'm going to go just to assist, and you'll see there's no graph up there. That's good, because the graph, I said, is confusing. And you're going to see you have those basic settings that you did on the EP801. You just don't have the carryover or that natural or aggressive cutoff at the top end. Otherwise, the settings are very similar, and you've got the eco, the trail, and the boost mode that you can adjust. I mentioned earlier, you can't really make a mistake. In all of these, you can see that they put a dot there as to what the factory setting is. So for trail, it's a green dot. For boost, it's a yellow dot. If you were to go to one of those other settings, you can see the blue dot is your eco mode. So if you brought it back to there, that's your factory setting. So very easy to get back to the original settings. So don't worry, if you've really messed things up, you can always go back to those default settings and start over. When you're done making the settings and you go out of the app, you do want to close out of the app. It's going to say disconnect. There is instructions in there that say make sure you disconnect before you turn off the app. It helps the bike. That you could create a problem if you don't disconnect. I've never had that problem, but hit disconnect, go out of the app, and you're ready to ride. You can be on the trail and connect it. You don't need a Wi-Fi connection. It's just a Bluetooth connection between your device, your phone, and your computer, and you can make adjustments while you're out there on the trail as well. Now, I will be doing some bench tests on these motors to see the real difference that these adjustments make to the motor. I have a test setup where I can test the torque and the power on a trainer to see what the real difference these things make. So if you're interested in these kind of videos, please subscribe. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up and put any questions in the comments. I love responding to questions, and I love input and ideas that I get from people who are watching the videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.